Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining today's session. Uh, uh, Today, we'll be talking about what are the five key skill sets that one would need to be a great fintech product manager. Uh, of course, the agenda for today's session, I'll just give a brief about my history. Then we'll talk about what is fintech and what are the various organizations. Why should you get into fintech? What should be the motivating factor? And then we do know that product managers are generalists, and there are some core competencies or core skill sets which are common across all product managers. It does not really matter whether you're in fintech or whether you're in consumer services or you're in just mobile devices. It could be any area. You'd need these skill sets to be a great product manager. However, as a product manager developing fintech products, you need some skill sets which are unique, or some of the common skill sets which you might need to flex a lot more on. So we will talk about that as we go into the session. So before we even get started, I would really like to understand the composition of the audience. So just if you could just type in the chat box what you do would be super helpful. Just checking how do I see the chat. So I would just request you to help me out
Sure. Can you read it?
No, I'm not able to read.
Okay, so next to the share screen, there is a chat option. And if not, click on more.
Mm-hmm.
I can read it out for you. We have 2 responses so far. Archana is a quality analyst. There is someone who's SDET. There is another business analyst. There is someone who does product marketing.
Okay. Awesome. So this is a nice combination to have, where we have a varied audience, and it's not just product managers. Before we get into the session, I would also like to understand what do you expect from today's session. If you give me an idea, maybe during the course of the session, I can give examples which will satisfy some of the questions you might have in your mind. And please use the chat window to answer just put in your questions. Let me just check this.
Do you want me to read it out for you?
Yes, that would be super helpful.
Okay, someone says working attributes of PM, skills unique to PM in fintech, not just payment domain, but investment banking as well.
Okay, got it.
Let's wait for more if you want to.
Got it. Sure. We can definitely answer these questions, and I hope some of these questions will be answered during the course of the session with the skill sets that I will talk about. Quickly moving on to my background. So let me go in a reverse chronology. Today, I'm a product manager at Intuit. I started my product management career at Intuit. My official fintech product management career at Intuit in October 2017. I had never worked on any fintech products in the past. At Intuit, I work on a product called as QuickBooks Desktop for US and Canada, where I lead all the efforts on the payroll attached product. Before becoming a fintech product manager, I was a small business owner in a startup called as Plan Easy. This was a startup my friend started in 2014. I joined the organization as a product manager, and it was a 0-1 game. And we were able to take from a website we were able to take this to a mobile app. Solving for about 10,000 customers seems very small, but an event management app where you can actually plan your events uh, remotely. Before that, I was a technical product manager at Citrix on a product called as Zen Server, where we used to build a hypervisor. Zen Server is a hypervisor for hardware devices like GPUs, storages, servers, among other things. Before becoming a product manager, I completed my MBA from Great Lakes Institute of Management, Chennai. And as in most of the cases, before I started my product management journey, I was a software engineer at IBM for about 5 years. Uh, One of the key reasons I became a product manager was also the beautiful amalgamation of customer centricity and technology, where you are building innovative solutions, impacting the lives of your lives of customers on a day-to-day basis. Now, moving to what is a fintech. I'm sure all of us have an, an understanding of what fintech is. However, just like if you were to ask people, what does a product manager do? No two people who are not product managers would have the same answer. Similarly, if you were to ask someone in general, what is fintech? There is no common answer from people in general. Fintech is just an amalgamation of two words, financial technology. In very simple terms, it is using technology to solve for people's financial needs. Now, it could be how a person transacts his or her business. It could be the recent innovation in cryptocurrency or any payments advancements. It could be basic accounting. It could be your payroll solution. It could be RegTech. It could be a lot of these things. However, we also have this very crazy notion that fintech is something that has emerged only now. Yes, fintech is growing, fintech is booming, but fintech is in version 3.5 at this point in time. Of course, in the early 90s and late 80s, we did have people sitting at home, sipping a cup of coffee and ordering anything that they wanted via mail order services. Then we had the ATM come in. We had the stock exchange being officially, came into existence. That was another era. The dot-com bubble, dot-com boom happened. Then in 2008, we saw a major crash in the economy. With that came a massive need for RegTech, and that it started a major boom in fintech as an industry. Also, the release of the iPhone and smartphones ensured that fintech was no longer limited to computers, but now it was to mobile phones or smartphones, as we call them. So as you can see, this is the most basic definition of what we call as fintech. And this is how the fintech ecosystem looks. I will not delve into the basic, into each and every one of these areas. But we see that fintech is not only payments. It's not only remittances. There's a lot of different things that happen. Starting from your personal finance, all the way up till insurance technology, alternative finance methods, and the latest Bitcoins and blockchain and other things. Now, even before we discuss the skill sets that are required to become successful as a fintech product manager, we would have to know why would one want to choose fintech? I chose fintech by accident. Fintech was not really a very conscious choice. I was a small business owner and then I realized, hey, here is a company which makes a lot of products which help small business owners or individuals, manage their finances and run their business smoothly. So it was very intriguing, and I moved to fintech. However, there were a lot of trends that I was observing when I was not a fintech product manager. A lot was happening on payments, insurance, fintech. Now, if you want to become a fintech product manager and are not very sure if it's the right plunge for you, because a lot of people have this misconception that, hey, this is not a really fast growing or a booming industry. This is growing at a snail's pace. Uh, Nothing can be farther from the truth. Fintech is an extremely global industry, and it is extremely fast growing. So, if you're someone who is looking for a fast-paced, industry where you can create several innovative products which impact customers' financials, and when we impact the customers' financials, it impacts the quality of their lives on a day-to-day basis, then fintech is absolutely for you. When you become a fintech product manager, you're no longer limiting yourself to being an interface between engineering and customers. You need extreme ownership, and you will have an extremely high energy atmosphere. And when you start building products in such an atmosphere, the personal growth that you will see, and also the professional growth in terms of your craft, is incredible. So if you're someone who enjoys doing all of this, then fintech is absolutely for you. And also there are a variety of choices with so many innovations happening in fintech. Newer types of products are being built, newer skill sets are required. It's a great place to be in. Now, where do fintech product managers come from? If you have any thoughts, you can actually type them into the chat box, and I would request Sonal to just help me.
Do you want me to read out the answers for you, Sowmya?
Yes, Sonal, that will be helpful.
Okay, someone said MBA,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about it so far. Someone says with previous fintech experience, MBA finance.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it so far.
Wow. Okay. Thanks to people who actually answered. Interestingly, fintech product managers, yes, of course, the options that you mentioned are also one of the common paths that fintech product managers take. However, fintech product managers are no different from any other product managers. So just like anyone can become a product manager through a variety of paths from different professional backgrounds, you become a product manager. The path is exactly the same. The path does not change. You could be an engineer who aspires and turns into a PM. You could be a business analyst turning into a PM, program management, marketing or market research, sales, pre-sales, solution sales, customer support, content management, design, and your MBA and everything else. And fintech product managers could be startup founders, investors, fresh undergrads, fresh MBAs. They could be tech leaders and GMs. So to become a fintech product manager, if you have the core competencies, at least in the early stages of your trying to shift into fintech as a early stage PM, you don't necessarily need very different skill sets from anyone who would want to move into product management. It is only after you move and you start building products, and as you grow, you would need to flex some of the different muscles. So to become a fintech product manager, the path is still the same as any other field. Now, What do you think are the traits that all awesome product managers have in common? I would really look forward to more participation, just to understand what we all feel. If I were to say, what are the top 3 traits according to you that you feel a product manager absolutely needs to have?
So there is an answer which says empathy. Then there is another one which says communication skills, stakeholder engagement, deep customer knowledge, decision making, customer experience again, empathy again, design thinking, product knowledge, domain knowledge, and technology on which it build on.
Awesome. Awesome.
Customer expectation. There are a few. Do you want me to read it out?
Sure. I can see the pattern. So the way, so you're all bang on. And I really love the part where the answers actually were thinking about empathy and more so about customers. So that's a great important trait to have. Of course, you need to have great design thinking skills to be successful. Communication is the key. But when you really look at the bigger picture, this is just a fun video. This is what product managers actually do.
What you do in Intuit is you take the specifications from the customers and you bring them down to the software engineers. Yes, that's right. Well, then I just have to ask, why couldn't the customers just take them directly to the software people? Well, I'll tell you why. Because engineers are not good at dealing with customers. So you physically take the specs from the customer? Well, no, my secretary does that, or their bags. So then you must physically bring them to the software people. Well, no. Yeah, I mean, sometimes. What would you say you do here? Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people?
So this is a funny video. The frustration apart, as you said, to be a great product manager, one of the key traits is that we deal with customers. We are the representatives for the customers. We represent the customers on the team, in our organizations, on the products that we build, so that their needs are met. So having deep customer empathy is super duper important. Now, coming to the 3 traits of a great product manager, these are the core skill sets that any product manager should absolutely have. First one is empathy, where you know your customers better than they know themselves. You being able to connect to something with your customers, like their emotions, their needs, their feelings, versus becoming the super user of the product and building out solutions. Having deep customer empathy is the first and the foremost skill set that a great product manager absolutely needs to have. This is an inherent trait. Some of the other skills in product management are extremely coachable, but when we think of empathy, it is an inherent trait. Being able to connect with someone, being able to listen to their problems and then respond is something that is very important if you have to build great products. As someone else said, communication, we call this OPC. If you want product managers on a day-to-day basis, they deal with different initiatives, different features. There are just too many things. Plus, there are a lot of stakeholders that we work with. So for a product manager to be successful, they need to be extremely organized. The O stands for that. After then you are listening to a lot of customer problems. There are great ideas that come from different stakeholders from your engineering team, but you cannot really solve for world hunger. There's always only so much that you can solve for. And the first thing that we as product managers should learn to say is not yes, it is no. It is being ruthless prioritizers. So the P stands for prioritization. A good product manager knows that of the 10 great ideas, only one or two can be delivered, or only one or two problems can be solved for. And they will go after the most impactful problems and the most impactful solutions. So you have to be ruthless prioritizers, and you have to learn to say no, so that we are delivering awesome solutions to our customers. This is something that I hear very often at Intuit. Repetition does not ruin the prayer. So the C stands for communication. If you're someone who does not like communicating, like if you're someone who does not like sharing what happened on an hourly basis or on a daily basis with all your stakeholders, then you should rethink. A product manager not just communicates, a product manager over communicates to ensure that everyone is on the same page and everyone is aligned. To really think of it, a product manager is holding the threads across all the functions. We are generalists in a world full of specialists, but we are holding the thread and we are holding them all together to deliver a great experience for our customers. So it is super important for great product managers to be over communicative. Even if you're repeating the same thing 1,000 times over, it is all right, but ensure that you are communicating several to all your stakeholders multiple times so that everyone is aligned. The third one is data-driven and extremely analytical. Of course, we all rely a lot on our gut instinct as well when we take decisions. However, a great product manager relies on data and analyzes the data really well. Now, there are multiple ways in which you can get data. This could be product usage metrics. The data could come from primary and secondary research. It could come from your voice of customers. It could come from care channels. A good product manager always ensures that they have all the information that they need, all the data that they need. They will look at it from all the angles, analyze it really well, and make the best possible decision. From data, you have an offshoot of AI/ML. AI/ML is an extremely overused term, but that is where the market is headed. Having access to data is not sufficient. Just analyzing the data is also not sufficient. Being able to take or being able to come up with actionable insights from this data, which can be fed back into the system or the product, ensuring that your customers have a much better and a customized experience is what great product managers do. So these three core skill sets are absolutely required for anyone and also for fintech product managers. Now, I'll just move to what would it take to become a successful fintech product manager. We have established the fact that the three skill sets that we just spoke about are absolutely required in all product managers. So it is understood that fintech product managers also need to absolutely have these three skills to be successful. Now, these are the 5 skill sets which I believe are truly required to be successful or to grow and build amazing products in fintech space. I will re-emphasize on empathy, but the empathy that is required in fintech is a lot more deeper, and a lot more flex is required by people when it comes to fintech. The second one is a business mindset. You can no longer think of just a problem and a solution. You have to be completely business oriented. You need to understand the end-to-end ramifications of any of your decisions. The third is domain knowledge. And you note that it is not expertise that we are aiming for here, it is domain knowledge. Good finance know-how, good industry know-how. The fourth one is being detail oriented with zero error or tolerance. Here, when we go into future slides, you will notice that in fintech, you do not have a lot of opportunities to get things right. You have to get it right the first time, or the product is no longer usable. You will attract the attention of all the regulatory authorities, and then there's a lot of negative press around the product, and it becomes very difficult affecting the brand. So you have to be extremely detail oriented, and you should have absolutely no tolerance for errors. Finally, this is one of our values at Intuit as well, which is creativity and grit. The industry is extremely lean, and innovation happens at breakneck speed. It is important that a product manager solves for all these regulations, innovations in a very creative way with a lot of grit thrown in. So just to reiterate, we are talking about empathy, business mindset, domain knowledge, detail oriented with zero error tolerance, and creativity and grit. These are the 5 most important skill sets that you would need, or the muscles that you would have to absolutely flex to build great fintech products. This will apply across the industry. You could be working on a personal finance tool. You could be working on an insurance application. You could be working on payments. You could be working on stock exchange products. Doesn't matter. You need to absolutely have these 5 skill sets to really build great products. Now, this is something that I always like to understand. When we talk about what is the core skill set or one of the most important skill sets to be a great product manager, the top answer even today, as always, is empathy. That you absolutely need to have empathy. What do you understand from empathy? What does empathy mean to you? If you could just have 1 or 2 answers, would be super helpful.
So there is an answer which says know your customer. There is someone who says understand customer needs. Someone again says customer pain points.
Got it. Got it. So these are all great answers. And interestingly, everyone focused only on customers. However, in fintech, if customers form a part of your stakeholders, external stakeholders, there are way too many internal stakeholders. Showing empathy for your internal stakeholders also becomes super important. Before we talk more about empathy, let's watch this video by Breen Brown. She has studied several people during the course of her PhD studies, and understood what does empathy and sympathy mean, and how empathy is different from sympathy, and how empathy can actually help us connect better with people and build better products.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, I'm down. I know what it's like down here. And you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. At least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So, as we noticed from the video, empathy is all about perspective taking, not judging other people's thoughts and emotions, being non-judgmental, and finally, connecting with them, understanding their feelings. So as a fintech product manager, empathy takes 2 forms. First one is customer empathy, which is absolutely required for everyone. Where in fintech, it becomes even more difficult because no 2 customers that you will interact with would have the same financial pain points. For a really long time, the fintech industry has been building problems which we feel solves for the functional needs of the customers. But what we really need to appeal is the emotional needs of a customer. How does this particular software or application or solution affect a customer emotionally? So then we had this demonetization, and then we had to completely move to a digital economy. I remember standing in the queues in the ATM running out of cash, and that was the first time I actually moved to a wallet. Until then, I had never used a wallet. I was extremely loyal to my debit card and credit card, and I said, no, I will not use anything else. The reason I switched to using a wallet was because all these grocery stores, the general people, who sold vegetables on the carts, they also had started accepting payments into a wallet. UPI was one of the biggest innovations at that time. Now, yes, functionally, it solves for your needs that, hey, you can transfer money from any mode to a person's account. Now, that account could be a bank account, could be a wallet, doesn't matter. But it is not the functional need that really gave UPI or the, as a trailblazing effort that it was. It appealed emotionally to people. Now I'm not able to draw money. Uh, I don't have physical cash. How do I pay my local grocery store, who until recently only accepted cash? How do you pay these small vendors, small businesses who only accept cash? So when you're thinking of building a product, especially in fintech, the more you appeal emotionally to a customer, the better. It is important for the customer to feel and also uh, really realize that you as a company or a brand just don't talk, but you're walking the talk. You not just understand their problems, but are solving for them in a way their financial pain points are addressed, and they can have a better quality of life. Now, the second aspect of empathy comes to stakeholders. When I was not a fintech product manager, I dealt mostly with customers, and internally, I dealt with my engineering team, uh, customer success team to some extent, and my design team. Interestingly, everyone on this team understood tech talk. We used to talk about the problems, like the architecture doesn't solve for this, the product doesn't do this, the technology stack doesn't work this way. I was focusing more and more on technology, and everyone around me understood. All my stakeholders were technical. In fact, I was the least technical one on the group, if to be very honest. But when I switched to fintech, the number of stakeholders I dealt with on a day-to-day basis, and I continue to deal with on a day-to-day basis, has just increased massively. I deal with the legal team. I deal with compliance team. I have a risk team. I have a specific fraud defrauding team. And these folks do not understand tech. Now I have learned to become more comfortable as a generalist. I'm like a Swiss Army knife. I'm able to do several things. I'm a jack of all trades, I'm a master of none in the world of specialists. So you have several stakeholders, the number has increased, and each one of them has a different motivation. So to be able to build products, innovative products in this environment, it is important for you to empathize with your stakeholders, internal stakeholders, understand what truly motivates them, what each one of them expects from the solution or from the problem, and seek alignment and ensure that you're building empathy internally. Only when you have great empathy with your stakeholders will it translate into great products for your customers. So empathy has now two aspects: customers, external focusing, and stakeholders, a large number of them, internal focusing, who are all specialists. The next one is business mindset. Fintech industry actually operates at very lean margin. And as a product manager, it is your key responsibility to build a sustainable business around the product that you're thinking of. Now, you might wonder, hey, a single product cannot mean an entire business. But interestingly, in fintech, any single product that you're working on, say, for example, you could be offering student loans. You could be offering a new way to transfer money across the borders. You could be helping people to file taxes. Each and every product is an entire business on its own. And you are responsible as you build products and solutions to develop a sustainable business so that you have durable competitive advantage. You're solving for the problems permanently and not, in a way where you can be taken over very quickly by a competitor. It is also important for you to understand and also help drive all the decisions that are surrounding how the complete business works. So think about it this way. A non-fintech product manager will normally focus on, did I understand my customer's problem statement right? Okay, so this is the X problem, and this is how I will solve. And let me talk to my customer success about if there are more data points around the pain point. Let me talk to engineering and design about implementing the solution, and marketing and sales about the go-to-market strategy. However, when you become a fintech product manager, you're now forced to think, and these are some of the questions which I have asked myself over the last couple of years at Intuit. Say we are offering a new loan product. I know my customer's problem is getting a loan, and we are going to offer a new loan product. How will we even fund this new loan? Say we determined a way to fund this new loan. How will we de-risk? How do we assess the risk of this borrower? How do we say, hey, you will get money, you will not get money? What are the various criteria we will apply to ensure that we are not lending to wrong people? Now, because you're dealing with money, there are a lot of legalities around. There are a lot of regulations that you have to follow. How will you structure the legal agreements with your clients? And finally, after you launch this product, because of the sheer complexity of the kind of products that you're building, especially in terms of, because you're dealing with somebody else's money, right? You have to also see if from the beginning till the end of the life cycle, does your customer service team have all the information that it needs to quickly respond to client requests? So as a fintech product manager, you're no longer just thinking of a single problem and providing a solution. You're thinking of it as an end-to-end ecosystem solve, where you are focused on the ramifications any decision that you make can have on the business. The third one is domain knowledge. To shift into fintech domain or industry, you don't need domain expertise, or initially you don't need domain knowledge either. When I joined Intuit, I did not have domain knowledge on US payroll or UK payroll or Canada payroll at all. Absolutely none. Domain knowledge can be and has to be gained over the years. It is super important for a product manager to have enough domain knowledge to assess the competitive landscape, the industry trends, and the changing customer behavior. You might argue this is absolutely needed in any domain, any field. You are right, but other domains, in many scenarios, especially in very commonly used products, you are in most cases the super user of a product. So being a super user of the product, sometimes you are already assessing, hey, whether I should be using this product A or product B as a customer. However, when it comes to fintech, depending upon the kind of product you're building, the industry is changing at a fast pace. There are lots of disruptive innovation that's happening on a day-to-day basis. So it is important for a product manager to very quickly ramp up on the domain knowledge. You don't need domain expertise because you are surrounded by specialists and experts who will be able to aid you in any decision making. But for you to be able to really make the right decisions, you need domain knowledge. But as an absolute bare minimum, everyone who wants to become a fintech product manager should have financial know-how. What are the various financial jargons? And also eventually, you also need to understand how different regulations affect different geographies. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of an understanding of the domain. A regulation can affect a particular state. It can not affect a particular country or a particular city. So knowing that how these regulations can have an effect on different geographies that you sell your product in can have, you need to really understand the domain well to build out well thought solutions, because you have to get it right in the first go. Going to the next one, which is detail-oriented with zero error tolerance. This is one of the most critical ones in my opinion. When I joined Intuit, I came from a background where I could experiment a lot. The leeway to experiment was huge. And so was the leeway to make mistakes. You're learning from your mistakes, right? So you can create a product using a hypothesis A. You launch it to the customers, and if something breaks in the field, you roll back. You fix it and you roll it out again. And it spoils you as a product manager. What it really does not do is it doesn't force you to think of end-to-end solutions. It doesn't force you to think whether you have covered all your bases. When I joined Intuit, I started working on the payroll feature, and there is something called as a compliance season where the tax year ends and you're upgrading yourself to the latest taxes. New laws are made and new rates come into picture, and customers upgrade to the latest version of the product to be able to run payroll for the next tax year. That is when the reality actually hit home. You cannot roll back any of the tax changes that you have made in the field. You cannot say, hey, I forgot this one part in the user experience and now the customer doesn't have a field to enter this particular value in. Maybe let me take a couple of weeks and launch this. There is absolutely no leeway to do that, because every single day that you make a mistake, your customers have to live with the mistake that you have made. You are making their lives hell. You're blocking a customer from paying their employees and from staying compliant. Not only are their employees affected, their business is going to be affected, and they might be jailed for not doing it right by their employees. So the stakes are extremely high in fintech. Any loan amount that you give out or any transaction amount, they are actually large, and people really care because it's their money, right? We all care about our money, so the stakes are extremely high. Add to that, the regulations that we deal with are extremely strict and have to be delivered in stringent timelines. It's not like I think of a regulation and I'll give you 2 years to come up with a solution. In some cases, if it's massive, you might get a year to implement some of the solutions like the GST, but there are so many other limitations in the product itself. So getting all of your regulations in the right timeline becomes super important, and getting it right in the first time is important. If the devil is in the details, fintech product managers have to be Satanists. You have to be extremely detail oriented so that your products are accurate, secure, and efficient. You cannot have a product which does the calculations wrong. You cannot have a product which is not secure when you're dealing with somebody's money. And you cannot have a product take ages to deliver a particular solve on the screen. So you have to be extremely detail oriented, and you should not be able to tolerate any errors, because a simple error can have a massive impact on the business itself. Finally, creativity, grit, and ingenuity are very, very important. We are operating at, the industry itself is very lean, innovations happening at breakneck speed. Regulations are not always well thought out, and sometimes the product might not be able to support any of the new regulations. So you are the internal innovation culture champion. You have to drive an innovation culture internally so that no customer need is unexplored and no solution that you're providing is unpolished. Sometimes it is a very, very bleak phase. You have very limited resources. You have several regulations which you have to absolutely solve for. Even with ruthless prioritization, maybe all 5 of the regulations have to be solved for to stay compliant in the market. You have to ensure that not only do you get scrappy, you also keep your team motivated and ensure that they move forward despite constraints. I can give you an example here. With the recent COVID-19 situation, pandemic situation, a lot of changes have happened to the way US payroll is run, US payments is done. So also in India, but I have been working on a product in US. So I'll give you that example. There was a recent act where you allow an employer to not pay the taxes that they have collected from their employees to the respective government agency for a year. To give you an idea, if I were to run payroll for 2 employees, I'm running into taxes, say I'm paying them $3,000 each in a month. In a quarter, I'm running to taxes up to $1,500 if I were to run a bi-weekly payroll. When you think about this, what we are essentially saying is you are going to be paying $4,500 for the current quarter from your pocket. The government said, hey, what I will do is if you keep someone on your payroll, I will ensure that you don't have to pay these taxes for the next 6 months. The product did not support this. We have, for customers for whom we do taxes and file forms, we do not have the infrastructure where we say that, I will not collect these taxes from you. And this we had to build out in a week for our customers. The infrastructure did not support, the architecture did not support. The team really got together and we went extremely scrappy. We introduced a hack in the system to ensure that we remove this constraint. And for those customers for whom we did taxes, we removed the constraint for the next 6 months. It was extremely appreciated. It required a lot of creativity and grit because we were all ready to give up because we knew this has never been done in the history. In the last 30 years of our product, we've never done this. We didn't even think it was possible. So it was huge for our customers, and it was just our being scrappy, despite being several constraints and the creativity which the team showed, we were able to deliver this. I'll give you one real life case where all these traits were used by the product manager to deliver a massive initiative. Recently, we had a new relief called as the Paycheck Protection Program, where small business owners got loans, which could be converted into grants. When I say converted into grants, you don't have to repay this loan back. If you use this money to pay your employees during the pandemic situation. The government actually launched this to give out $550 billion as loans. In the history of US government, they have never launched such a massive relief package in such a short time. They rolled this out in 2 weeks and they said it is effective starting next week. The product which I work on has never seen such short release cycles for such a massive release. Intuit also became a lender, and we said that every person who uses our payroll product can actually apply for this loan from within the product starting the week it became effective. So the amount of empathy we had to show, understand the true customer pain point, what type of customers would really want this loan, to understand all the stakeholders and aligning them and saying that, hey, this is absolutely required. How do we solve for this in a week? It meant sleepless nights for everyone. How do we think of this as an end-to-end solution? What is the business impact this will have if we do not solve for this right? How do we assess the risk? How do we, what is the loan amount that we will support as a maximum amount? What are the risks that are involved? How do we prevent fraud? How do we ensure we are calculating the right amounts? We became extremely business mindset oriented. Great domain knowledge, understanding the payroll landscape, what the competition is doing, how the customer will behave if we were to provide this solution, helped. Zero room for error, understanding the regulations in and out. It was a 10-page regulation which had to be implemented in the product. Understanding it end to end with zero room for error and launching it on 4 different versions of the product. We launched it in a week and we gave out $1 billion in loans to small and medium business owners. So having these skill sets as a product manager, you're able to drive the team at breakneck speed when absolutely required to solve for critical problems for your customers and always coming through for them. So just to recap, a great fintech product manager, apart from having customer empathy, apart from having OPC, organized prioritization, communication, being extremely data driven and analytical, they need to have empathy for both customers and internal stakeholders, be a Swiss Army knife in a world of different tools, where each tool performs a special task, be extremely business mindset oriented, have the right domain knowledge, be very detail oriented with zero error tolerance, and being creative, scrappy, having a lot of grit in times of difficulties is essential. Take a pause here. So I'll just a quick time check. Sonal, how are we doing on time? I know it's 9.
Yeah, we are pretty much on like 15 minutes ahead of time. Is this your last slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. In interest of time, let me ask you a few questions, and maybe later if you can go to the LinkedIn thread and reply to people. So
Absolutely.
there is this one question from Pankaj D. How does someone who has worked in banking gear up to be product manager in fintech?
Okay. So it depends on the kind of role you have worked in banking. So one of the key, and also the kind of product you really want to move into fintech. But given that you're already in a financial background, to a very large extent, your understanding of the domain knowledge is there. To become to really shift your career into product management, you have to become extremely problem focused and not solution oriented. So even when you talk to customers, even when you're looking at different aspects, think of the problem, all the unsolved problems that are there in front of you, and don't try to say, hey, I have the solution, let me force fit it. Second is it definitely helps to brush up and understand the trends in the fintech space and figure out which area you really want to move to. So that also helps. So research, being extremely focusing more on research and doing primary, secondary research, talking to people definitely will help you in making a switch to fintech. Of course, because you're there in the banking sector, some of the other, depending on what you're doing, I can definitely say that detail orientedness is already something that you have. The third thing is we think of any problem or any solution in an end-to-end way. Do not just become the protector of the happy path as other product managers would be. You also have to think of all the scenarios that can go wrong. So it definitely helps for you to start thinking about things as problems and not in terms of solutions. I hope that answered, but I can definitely take more questions. I put it on LinkedIn, I can definitely answer.
Great. We also have another question from Rohit Khan on similar lines. He works in an ERP software compliance domain, GST domain, and how he wants to know how can he switch to fintech products.
Sure. As I mentioned, switching to fintech products or fintech domain at any point in time does not really require a lot of industry knowledge. Your core skill sets as a PM, your core skill sets, your craft have to be absolutely good. So empathy, focusing on problems, uh, understanding how you will do the OPC, becoming more organized, practicing prioritization. Prioritize prioritization in your day-to-day life. Do over communication. A lot of research in the industry and market trends should actually suffice to get into a fintech product. However, to grow, you need to flex different muscles.
Great. So Abhishek Kumar, he has a question where he wants to understand that how do you understand if your product is a market fit or not?
So that's a very great question. First of all, when we think of product as a market fit or not, the question is asked in a reverse way. Even before you come up with a solution or a product, you're actually focusing on an unsolved customer need. If there is an unsolved customer need for which only the solution which you have provided is the best possible solution, which a customer will, where the customer's problem is solved really well, then there is an absolute great product fit. So the very first step is understanding the right target segment. What is, you have to absolutely segment the customer base well. You should know who your target audience is. Then understand the problem of that target audience, and if it is the right problem of that, if it's the most important problem of that target audience. If you're able to do these two accurately, it takes some practice, but customer segmentation and identifying the most impactful problem and solving for it will always provide a great product market fit.
Great. Thank you so much, Sowmya. I think we should wind this up now, and maybe people can ask, we can continue the LinkedIn thread, and I request you to go ahead and answer there. Before we wind this session up, I would like to give the best question award to Abhishek, and we'll reach out to you, Abhishek, and share your learning course with you. And once again, thank you so much, Sowmya, for the lovely session. Here is a token of appreciation from all of us at the Institute. The QR code on the certificate will take you to your Hall of Fame page on our website, and we'll also update your recording there so that people can use it in future as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I will email this to you.
Sure. Thank you, Sonal. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks, guys.